Have you ever wanted to find a way to deal with a huge, thick algae mess? Well, what if I told you you're not the only one? Hi, it's me, the Aquas for Fun, and I make videos about aquascaping and different aquarium stuff. Well, let me introduce you to my 60cm aquarium. And you know what's even sadder than the fact that this aquascape grew and suffered a metric ton of algae a few weeks back? Well, it's the fact that I was actually aiming to join this year's IAPLC contest and I didn't make the deadline. Well, I am months and months behind the target maturity that I want for this tank when the deadline came. So I didn't want to join the contest prematurely. I think I'd rather just wait till next year and then do another escape for that contest. Anyway, well, today's topic will be about how I turned this tank into this tank right here. Of course, the first step in dealing with algae is to identify the root cause of the algae. Just like any other problems, you have to find the root cause. Well, in my case, it's a combination or a bunch of stuff that led to that type of algae problem. First problem that I identified was when I was rescaping this tank, my ALGAE Biomaster 350 was left unused for months. So all of the beneficial bacteria that I had and grew and nurtured for months and years, dead. I think none of them survived. All dead. Just dead. Second problem that I identified is the climate. Screw you, climate change. Well, not necessarily about climate change, but when I started this tank, it was at the end of the winter phase, and then as summer slowly creeps in, temperature rose, as well as my algae problems. Now the third and the biggest factor, it was me, okay? It was me. It's my fault, okay? Yeah, it's my fault. I didn't continue with my regular maintenance sessions because of like current real life events that I had to prioritize. Excuses. I wasn't consistent enough with my water changes. I didn't remove any dead or dying leaves when it was transitioning to the new setup. And at some point after the initial growth of algae, I decided to just let it grow wild for the sake of this video. Okay, so how long did it took me to fix the algae problem? Well, it took me 3 to 4 weeks. I did not try and fix that in one maintenance session. I decided to become more conservative when it comes to the maintenance sessions that I've done. When trying to fix this type of algae problems at this severity, I think removing algae becomes your second priority and you have to prioritize your plant's health. So, my primary goal was to nurse all of the plants back to health, and then removing algae becomes secondary. And I know that helping plants recover could take weeks, so I decided to do it slowly and consistently and conservatively. Okay, so here are the specific steps that I took. The initial week or the first big maintenance session was the removal of all the visible algae. Remember, we'll take it slow. Okay, so remove only what you can see and then leave the rest for the next maintenance session. I removed all of the hair algae using my brush. I've removed all of the green spots algae on the hardscapes using the same brush, and I've cleaned the glass lily pipes right here as well as the tubing. I also removed all of the dead and dying leaves. Most of them came from my Schistosomaglotis prietoi, which is a fairly new species, I think, in the hobby. It was my first time handling that type of plant. It was originally discovered in the Philippines. It was declared as an easy category plant. When it transitioned to my new scape from the seller, I think it kind of suffered a little, so I had to remove all of the dead and dying leaves. I then of course cleaned the algae off the glass using my Dennerley Cleanator, which is this one. I really like this product. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this product before when I did my maintenance session, which was a live stream. So this side is a rough sponge. The other side is a combination of a steel mesh or steel wool. It will remove the algae, but it will not scratch your glass, which is really good. For all of those hard to reach places because of the current setup that I did, I used this one. So this product is really good for those hard to reach places. So it's a glove And I'm not sure if the camera can pick this up, but there's a bunch of steel mesh, I think, woven into the glove itself, making it really good for removing algae. And it's really good for reaching all of those hard to reach places. Yeah. Okay, so after removing sorry.
Sound production, take 2.
Okay, so after removing all of those algae Okay, so after removing all of those visible algae, the water becomes really green. That's why I did 50% water change. After the water change, the water was still a bit greenish, but again, I wanted to take it slow. I didn't want to shock the plants and the livestock that I've had. So I just left it for the next maintenance session. The next step, and probably one of the most important step, is to subscribe to a channel called Aquarist for Fun. Yes, here's a shortcut. There's a red button down there. It says subscribe. Click it. Okay, so going back. After 3 days, I did another maintenance session. I did clean the glass using my cleanator and the glove. Ooh, about the glove, I'll try and look for the product and link it on the description box below. I did a minor water change, maybe around 30%. After that, I then restarted and went back to my old fertilizing method, which was the estimative index or the EI method. Before the algae bloom, I was using this all-in-one fertilizing product. Problems arose, so I just went back to my old fertilizing scheme, which was the EI method. I then tried to titrate and use my own mix during the initial phase. In short, I did kind of play with my nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium mix. Initially, I lowered the nitrogen inside the mix, and I've increased the potassium and phosphate. Well, again, it's the aquarist's fault, which is me. I forgot to take into consideration some of the technical specifics or technical details that I've introduced into this tank, which was the CO2, light intensity, light duration, bright lights, and it was summer as well, so it was exposed to bright sunlight. I was also giving big CO2 doses. I didn't really consider bright lights and like CO2 as the cause of my problem. I think it was more of a nutrient deficiency type of problem. I think it's just I wasn't able to keep up in feeding all of the nutrients that the plants needed for such fast growth and in such a fast pace. Remember, when you're introducing bright lights and CO2 into the system, it could trigger or it could mean that you're forcing the plants to grow really fast. And when that happens, always sustain it with enough nutrients for such growth. Otherwise, you'll have problems like me. So think of it like this. I ask you to go to the gym and lift weights till failure for weeks while you're on a hunger strike. Now, after a week of my first maintenance session, I also resumed into removing all of those visible algae growth. Basically the same thing. Remove the hair algae, remove the green spots algae, remove the algae on the glass. Same thing. Water changes, 50%. I then decided to change the place or change the placement of some plants which are not receiving enough light, I think. And some plants are just struggling just because of their position or their location in the tank. And I think it really helped because after that, all of the succeeding maintenance sessions that I've done are basically the same, but I saw a significant growth or significant recovery of the plants. Oh, and just so you know, I've made a video about algae management and the different types of algae. I'll try and link it up in the description box below. Try to be consistent with your aquarium maintenance sessions. And here's the cherry on top. For those who have stayed long enough to reach this part of the video, the final part which really kind of helped me, and it's not sponsored by the way, it's actually this one. It wouldn't focus, but it's Easy Life Algae Exit. It's really good for those pesky green algae, and you only need to dose it like weekly. After the second week, you'll most probably see some significant results, which is really good. You'll actually see a dramatic decrease in the algae's volume. The active ingredient on this product looks like is salicylic acid, and it's really good for green algae and for making your tank water clear. Now, will it work on its own? No. Aquarium maintenance, consistent aquarium maintenance, and proper horticultural care is the major key or factor why I won against this type of algae problem. And like I said, the Easy Life algae exit, it was just the cherry on top. Now, everything will be repetitive at this point forward. Removing visible algae, cutting off dead or dying leaves, trimming your plants, water changes, looking at your specs or specifications. Try not to introduce major changes all at once. Do it slowly so your plants can adapt. Consistency is key. So, I hope this video was helpful. And if it was, remember, you can always leave this video with a thumbs up. Subscribe, because in this channel, I talk about aquascaping, fish keeping, and a bunch of general tips and guides on how to be a better aquarist. So, that's it for me. Bye.
Okay, that's a wrap.